We're looking at the talking filibuster. It's something that has not been used in a long, long time. It's a complicated process, but I think we're going to look at every way we possibly can to get this to the floor, to defeat the Democrats' obstructionism, and do something that makes common sense for Americans. We've gone through it as a conference, and now that we have Susan on board, I think we're going to be laser focused on this and any other method that we can utilize to get this onto the floor, because this is obviously something the American people want. I think what we'll have, if we actually implement it, is a higher turnout at elections, because people will have more confidence that the election, that their vote is going to be sacred, it's going to be safe, and we're going to have voter integrity.
That was Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty telling Maria on Sunday that Republicans are considering changes to the filibuster rule that would get the Save America Act through the Senate. The House passing the bill last week in a 218 to 213 vote. Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar, the only Democrat to vote yes. The bill now heads to the Senate. Democrats already vowing to block it using the filibuster. Republicans seemingly have at least 51 votes. Maine Senator Susan Collins switching her stance. Democratic Senator John Fetterman also in favor, telling Maria it's not unreasonable to ask for ID to vote. Now, President Trump, meanwhile, calling on Senate Majority Leader Thune to abolish the filibuster and allow a simple majority to pass bills. That includes the SAVE Act. But the so-called nuclear option doesn't have broad support among the 53 Republicans on the Senate side, who fear Democrats can use it to ram their own agenda through, should they regain control of the upper chamber in a midterm year. Let's bring in Texas Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman, so many things are at play right now here, but you introduced the Save America Act into the House, and you're calling on the Senate to bring back the talking filibuster. Tell us more.
Yeah, good morning, Cheryl. Thanks for having me on, and glad to see Senator Hagerty talking about the Senate considering moving the SAVE Act forward. But let me be very clear. We've done our job in the House of Representatives. We've sent the Save America Act over, which would be very clear about ensuring that only American citizens vote in American elections and that you have voter ID when you show up to vote. Pretty simple, polls at 85% plus. And we're not asking for the Senate to change its rules. I want to be very clear, right? They can consider going as far as, changing the rules and nuking the filibuster, but that's up to them. We're not calling on them to do that. We're just asking them to do their job, which is to put the bill on the floor and to force anybody who objects, presumably Democrats, to have to stand up on the floor and speak and exhaust their time if they want to, quote, filibuster. Right. I agree with Senator Mike Lee. We've allowed the Senate to have a fake filibuster. Mike calls it a zombie filibuster, where they just hide behind existing rules to leave the Senate doing no business until they get 60 votes. They don't have to do that. They can put the SAVE Act on the floor, and they can force them to have to speak and tell the American people why they oppose an 85% issue. We think it's a home run for the American people, so we just want the Senate to put it on the floor and force the question. And hopefully they will do that, and I appreciate that they now have 50 some odd senators that support the bill. Mike Lee's worked it hard. He introduced the bill, the same bill that I introduced in the House. And I want to give a shout out to Scott Pressler and a lot of the outside groups, and Cleta Mitchell, my friend who helped us draft the bill, that have been putting pressure on the Senate to do its job.
And I'm glad you mentioned the broad support from the American people when it comes to voter ID. Let's move over to the other big issue that's affecting Washington right now and the country. Thousands of American federal workers are waking up without a paycheck officially promised this morning. The partial government shutdown is now in day 3. Lawmakers, as you know, you are one, are on recess until next Monday. So a DHS funding deal remains at this point in limbo, sir. And funding expired early Saturday morning. That, of course, hits TSA, the Coast Guard, FEMA, and the Secret Service. So these TSA officers that are working without pay, there's concern about staffing shortages and travel issues because these TSA agents, sir, have very short memories, and they remember that they did go out without paychecks in the fall. Are you worried about the nation's airlines, number one? Number two, we got to talk about what the Democrats are pushing here with regards to ICE.
Well, all of this is related, right? Their obstruction of the Common Sense Save America Act is directly related to what they're doing now. Common sense would say we should fund TSA, fund DHS to do their job. Now, here's the good news. Republicans in the House have done our job. We've sent them a funding bill. We sent them a funding bill for all of government but the Democrats rejected it. So we passed a bill that funded all the government except only did a continuing resolution for 2 weeks for Homeland Security. That's now expired. So now Democrats are putting at risk the travel plans of the country, but also importantly, as you said, the TSA agents who are working hard for America. But we've done our job. And by the way, we looked ahead because we're smart enough, and we worked with President Trump with the Office of Management and Budget, my good friend Russ Vought, and we designed a bill in the big, beautiful bill that put funding there for both the Border Patrol and ICE, because we knew Democrats were going to play games with the nation's security. So we have funding there to carry out those functions. So that's why TSA and FEMA are the ones kind of left dangling, because Democrats want to play games. We don't want to play games with the American people's security. We want ICE to do its job and to remove people that are under orders of removal, remove dangerous aliens. We want Border Patrol to continue to secure the border. We want people to be able to travel. We want FEMA to be able to do its job like the ice storms in the South. But Democrats are playing games and demagoguing, just like they're trying to block a common sense 85% issue. And all of this is because they want to protect their own political futures. They want to stack America with people who are here illegally, who can vote illegally. That's all they're trying to do. It's why they dumped all these people under Biden and Mayorkas, and it's why they're trying to stop us now. But we're working with President Trump to do the job the American people want us to do, and hopefully Democrats will break down and have to do their job and fund these important parts of government.
Right. And with regard to the SAVE Act, and you're right, this is all related. You know, President Trump, according to The Hill, is he's threatening an executive order if this doesn't work out for the SAVE Act, because it's that important to the administration and, of course, as you mentioned, to the people who are saying this is what they want. Congressman, before I let you go, I got to ask you about what's happening down in Texas. You're running for Texas Attorney General. You're leading the Republican primary, 33%, 10-point advantage over Mays Middleton. She at 23%. Current AG Ken Paxton, as you know, of course, is running for Senate. Congressman, tell us about how the campaign's going and how you're feeling right now ahead of the primary.
Well, the biggest reason I'm running for Attorney General is that I think Texas needs to be saved. We need to make sure we protect it from wide open borders like we had under Biden and Mayorkas, but also the advance of Islam throughout the state. It's taking root. The Islamification of Texas is a real thing. I held a hearing in the subcommittee on the Constitution last week. And look, the people that I'm talking to across the state, they're grateful that I'm coming back home to Texas. I'm a cancer survivor, and I told my wife I'm going to leave it all on the line to make sure I save this country, and in this case, to save Texas. I'm leading in the polls, and I'm deeply grateful for all the support here at home. But importantly, we can't afford to lose Texas, Cheryl. If we lose Texas, there is no America, and everybody knows that. The Muslim Brotherhood knows that. The radical Marxists that are funding all the people that are trying to attack us, DAs that are putting criminals on the streets, what they're trying to do to, pack our rolls with people who are coming here illegally. So we got to have somebody here who's been a federal prosecutor like I have, who's been the first assistant attorney general, who's run the AG's office, and who's got a track record of success. So we're feeling good about the election, and, we head to the polls starting tomorrow morning. So I hope everybody will get out and vote. And if you're watching this, ChipRoy.com.
Congressman Chip Roy, good luck in the primary. Not sure you're going to need it, but good luck. It's great to have you on the show, sir. We'll talk to you very soon. We'll be following it.
Thanks, Cheryl.
All right.
God bless.
You too. We'll be right back, everybody.